Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. Is Gradey Dick Toronto's next star? Is he the most improved player in the NBA this year? Does he have a chance to win MIP? Is RJ Barrett a star? Is Scottie Barnes a star? Is Toronto the only team that's 1-5 in the league that's got a too many stars problem? Let's talk about that. So first, we're gonna get into a little bit of RJ stuff, a little bit of Scotty stuff, and then 4 or 5 minutes in, we're gonna get into Grady tape, specifically how he's succeeding and why all the Kyle Korver, all the Mike Miller, all these who does he get compared to? Jason Capono. All these comparisons absolutely need to die. You need to stop it. Okay. So grab your coffee and let's get to it. So, got a little bit of a live prepared for you today. This is not going to be one of those super long lives, but we need to talk about RJ Barrett because he flashed a 13.2 box plus minus last night in yesterday's close loss to the Los Angeles Lakers. And it was by far his best game with the Raptors. So I wanted to see if this was his best game ever in terms of box plus minus. So I decided to look through all of RJ's games in his entire career, and I sifted through all the positive ones. So here's his best game last year. It was against Golden State Warriors. He had a 12.6 box plus minus. He cracked double digit box plus minus 4 times last year. 3 of those times with the Toronto Raptors, only 1 time with the Knicks. So this was a significant improvement. Last year was a way better year for RJ than any other year of his career. And I'll prove it to you. So this is the previous year. Previous high was 14.4. So this mark technically eclipses what he did yesterday. He did it in 28 minutes against the New Orleans Pelicans, which he was a plus 22, and he had a 14.4 box plus minus, an insane number. Absolutely awesome. But mind you, like we're just going through every positive game. This is every game north of 0.0 box plus minus that he's ever had. So we're going to go right back to his rookie season. So y'all have the data, we have the data, and we can talk about it. Okay. Next up. Wait, hold on. Did I skip one? No, I didn't. So 2021, 2022, 14.8 plus 14.5. So he had a couple. So he had 3 north of 10. So that's pretty interesting. He was flashing some cool stuff there. And this was 2020, 2021. He had a 13.0, which is pretty similar to what he did last year. And ironically, it was against Toronto. So he made a really good impression on his next team. He shot 71% true shooting in that game. And he also had a 12.1 box plus minus in that game against Boston. So nice to see him doing it against good competition. Toronto wasn't a terrible team in 2020, 2021. So that's good to see. And actually, wait, Toronto was a terrible team in 2020, 2021. That's the year they got RJ Barrett. My bad. And this was his rookie season. Not a lot of positive games in his rookie season. However, it is worth noting that he had one really good game in which he was a negative 18, but he posted a 9.3 box plus minus, and that was against New York. His second best game as a rookie was against Atlanta. Okay, so all of this, I thought, wow, these are really, really impressive numbers. And I think 13.0 box plus minus is a really impressive number. And, again, there was a lot of conversation specifically from goofies like this, and here, hold on. Let me flash the craziest comment that I saw. Hang on. Da, 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 da. Okay, here. So in the meantime, I hope Scotty takes things more serious in the next offseason. So here's the thing. These conversations are insane. They're so stupid. I had somebody tell me yesterday, Scotty never drop 31 against the Lakers, against LeBron. And then I thought to myself, I seem to remember Scottie Barnes having 31 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 assists against the Lakers as a rookie. And that's literally what he did. That's Scottie Barnes. The next year, he had 32 points against the Lakers. So it's like, what are we doing here? I want to contextualize the conversation when we talk about Grady, because I have an awesome Grady comparison for you that's going to make you look really, really smart in the office. And I promise you it's accurate. And there's no one that in the Raptor space who's watched the player that I'm going to compare Grady to more than me, because we were born in the same country. So some people know that I'm Serbian, but I was actually born in Croatia. I was born in Split. And there was a guy who was born very close to me that was a really big part of my childhood because we lived in New York, New Jersey, and he played for the New Jersey Nets, and his name is Drazen Petrovic. And I'm going to show you exactly how Grady succeeds in a way Drazen Petrovic does. Maybe that'll be a follow-up video at some point where we do a cross comparison between the two players. But Yeah. Anyways, not to get sidetracked here, Scottie Barnes is a really freaking good player. He has not had a good season so far, but I hate the recency bias of clowns like Rue, frankly. So I decided to do the same thing that I did with RJ for Scottie. And just to give you an idea, this is Scottie's rookie season. He had a 17.0 box plus minus against the Brooklyn Nets. That was prior to them tearing it down. That was against Kevin Durant and all those dudes. Okay, that's him as a rookie. Now you're wondering, okay, well, and also he had 5 games where he was positive 10 or above. This is like already like this many games in a season as a rookie is already more than RJ's ever had. I hope RJ does something like what Scottie did in his rookie season this year. That would be amazing. That would be incredible because Scottie was a positive box plus minus in his rookie season. And he just had to average 15 points, but he's positive because he contributes in all elements of basketball, right? He's a great screener. He's a great rebounder. He's a great passer. He's just great all over the board. Okay, so what about Scottie's disaster class second year? Well, he had a 19.1 box plus minus against Philly. That was against Joel Embiid, if I'm not mistaken. He had a 17.2 boxes minus against Portland. He had a 15.6 boxes minus against Miami. All of these were pretty high minute games. He had the game that we referenced, 32 points. He had 11.4 boxes minus against the Lakers. He had a 10.0 boxes minus against the Atlanta Hawks. This is the season that people said he didn't work hard. This is the season where he was ass. This is the season where he had all those terrible games. And I'll agree that the season overall was bad. But look at the high points. These were the high points. These are the same, like, if you want to question the data, please understand this channel is devoted to data in a lot of ways. It's also devoted to film. I'm not a basketball nerd, but the same data that's leading me to tell you last year that Gradey was going to be perfectly fine is the same reason that I'm telling you Scottie Barnes is absolutely a superstar. Because in his worst season in the NBA, this is what he did. So, what about last year, the All Star season? Well, last year's All Star season was so great that all the data points that were north of 0.0 boxes minus didn't even fit on one screen. If I put it all on one screen, y'all wouldn't be able to read it. Last year, he had a 19.0 boxes minus against New York. Uh, he had a 17.5 against Cleveland, 17.4 against Charlotte, a 13.4 against Milwaukee, a 12.8 against Washington, a 12.3 against Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, in which, by the way, he shut down Nikola Jokic in the fourth quarter. Was that the one? I'm pretty sure. Then he had one against Joel Embiid and Philly, 11.0, a 10.6 against Victor Wembanyama, in which he hit the big three, a whole bunch of threes, the 10.5 against Chicago, the 10.3 against Milwaukee. Those are all pretty good teams with the exception of maybe one or two. Okay. So, yeah, he did this against a lot of really good defenses. Cleveland was a great defense last year. New York was a great defense last year. Milwaukee was a good defense last year. Philly, good defense. San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama, the monster, you know. So again, it's important who you do this thing against, right? The Charlotte game doesn't sway me. 17.4 boxes minus against Charlotte doesn't sway me the way that it sways me when you do it against Cleveland, Boston, New York, okay? The better defensive teams, because those are the ones that are designed to actually stop you and have the personnel to stop you. Okay. There's the rest of his stats for that year. Remember how I told you it didn't fit on one screen? Yeah, those are the worst positive games that he had last year. So please don't do this thing where, the new shiny toy comes in and you're just like, oh, well, let's forget the last 3 years. Scottie Barnes is just a bum now. He had a bad game. He could never score 30 because I haven't seen him score 30 in 8 months. So, like, please understand he's missed a lot of time, right? It's just nuts. It's nuts. People like Rue, honestly, you guys ruin basketball, bro. You really do. All right. Now we're 10 minutes into this. I wanted to take 5 minutes, but Gradey Dick film session. We got to talk about how Gradey Dick's succeeding, man. When Gradey Dick was drafted, there was a lot of talk about him being a shooter. And honestly, when I saw his tape at Kansas, that's what I saw. I saw a shooter. I didn't see a playmaker. I didn't see a great driver. I saw a good transition shooter who could do a lot of stuff out of half court sets. And that's why I was a little bit low on him prior to the draft. But after the draft, when I started to dig into his high school tape, I saw much more. I saw a player who won Gatorade National Player of the Year as an all around player. I started to see hints and pieces of one of my favorite players of all time, which is Drazen Petrovic. Drazen Petrovic is known as one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, but he was so much more than a shooter. This is a guy who dropped over 100 points in Europe. This is one of the greatest EuroLeague players of all time. This is a guy who is bordering on all-star superstardom in New Jersey after toiling away on the bench for the Portland Trailblazers. This is a guy who, frankly, was so incredible that Michael Jordan himself really, really felt like he respected him. Drazen Petrovic was a three-level scorer if you've ever seen one. He would launch from mid-range, he would launch from three, he would launch from the logo. He was a constant panic attack for the defense. Gradey Dick is not a shooter. Let me repeat that. Gradey Dick is not a shooter. Gradey Dick is a scorer. And as a scorer, he is scoring very well. He had a 6.5 box plus minus last night, which was very impressive. But more impressive is how he's doing it. Now, if you watched my film breakdown last night after the game, you know that I was very critical of how the Raptors are almost consistently playing 5-on-4. Either they have Bruno Fernando on the floor or they have a non-shooter on the floor. And I love Jamal Shed, but Jamal Shed can't shoot right now and teams are not guarding him. Or they have Davion Mitchell on the floor. And Davion Mitchell, I sent the tape of Davion Mitchell last night to a friend of mine who's a trainer and a friend of mine who's a scout. And they both sent me back the same message. It was almost word for word. One said, "That's wild, bro." The other one said, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." I have never seen an NBA player guarded the way Davion Mitchell is being guarded right now. I've seen NBA players ignored at the line. I've seen defenders say, cool, take the shot. I have never seen defenders run away from an offensive player in my life until I watched Davion Mitchell play basketball. So please understand that what Gradey is doing is actually not even, it's so much more impressive than it actually looks because you have to understand he's doing this 4-on-5 almost all the time. Almost all the time that he spends with Davion Mitchell on the court. And then when you take Davion and you stretch it out to the exact opposite extreme, I'm not saying the exact opposite extreme, but maybe the exact opposite extreme would be Steph Curry. But Emmanuel Quickley is much closer to Steph Curry than Davion Mitchell is to Emmanuel Quickley. That sounds crazy, but it's true. So Emmanuel Quickley is going to be able to stretch the defense out in ways, and provided that Gradey still remains a huge part of the shot diet of the Toronto Raptors, and there's no reason he shouldn't, he is looking like going forward, he looks like the second best player on this team. Like he is at 20 showing me stuff that I'm like, I never saw this from Emmanuel Quickley. Offensively, I never saw this from I never saw this from RJ Barrett. There's stuff that he's doing at 20, given where he was to where he is, you could actually be looking at a perennial all-star. Now, I'm going to say that with caution because it's a 2-game sample size that I'm looking at. It's a progression that has happened over a year, and I've been high on him over that entire year, but I need to pump the brakes and say it was against the Lakers, it was against Charlotte. These are two notoriously terrible teams. I want to see it against a better team. You're not going to see that tonight, but at some point you're going to bump into a really good team, and I want to see if you can drop 30 on a good defensive team because the Lakers have Anthony Davis and then they have nothing. Rui is not a good defender. LeBron's not a good defender. D'Lo's not a good defender. Connect is not a good defender. Basically, nobody who plays for them is a good defender. Gabe Vincent's not a good defender. Austin Reeves, none of these guys are good defenders. Okay. So, and I mean, when you look at the Charlotte Hornets, who is guarding him? LaMelo Ball, and he's not a good defender at all. So when you take Trey Mann, he's not a good defender at all. So you start to take like the like Gradey is a very, very smart player. He's going to exploit dumb defenders. And he's played a lot of really bad, limited, small, dumb defenders. D'Angelo Russell is 6'4". Gradey is 6'8". You do the math. If you put D'Angelo Russell on Gradey Dick, he's going to score every time. So what happens when teams start putting bigger defenders on him, or teams like the Boston Celtics, who have an abundance of defenders, can put a Derek White on him, who is a little bit undersized but has the length to recover, or a Drew Holiday, or I mean, the question then becomes, then who do you guard RJ Barrett with? Then who do you guard Emmanuel Quickley with? Most teams are not equipped to stop 4 good offensive players. If RJ's a good offensive player, Grady's a good offensive player, Emmanuel Quickley's a good offensive player, and Scottie's a good offensive player, you have 4 players who could explode for 30 points at any given time. And I got to tell you, the one guy where you were like, I don't know if that's going to happen for him was probably Grady, at least not this soon. But let me show you how it's happening for him because it is really impressive. Now, the most important thing about Grady is not the fact that his shots go in. He's not shooting that well from three. Okay. So just pump the brakes on he's like a lights out shooter. He will be a lights out shooter once he's not playing 4-on-5. And we've seen him shoot 50% from three for extended periods. So he is very much capable of that. The importance, however, is 3-point shooters who cannot score in the mid range, who cannot score at the basket, i.e., Fred Van Vliet, are very much easier to stop. And they're never efficient because teams just have to run them off the line. The scouting report is seriously very, very thin because with a Fred Van Vliet, he wants to take the three. So you close out hard and you force him into the drive. And now you forced him into a zone where he can't finish. And you just offer a little bit of help. You offer a little bit of help from the back, a little bit of help from the side. He's undersized. He's not going to finish at the rim well. So he's not that serious to stop. Well, Grady is very difficult to stop because one, he never stops moving. Number two, there are no cold zones for Grady. He's not a left hand merchant. He's not a right hand merchant. He can finish with both hands. He's not a left floor, right floor guy. He's not a corner guy. He's not an above the break guy. He's not a mid range only guy who doesn't have the range to splash threes. And he moves relentlessly without the basketball, and he's always shot ready. So whereas last year I think he second guessed himself a little bit too much as a rookie, this year he's not second guessing himself for a second. That probably was not right. Okay, watch this. Jakob Poeltl screen. So Grady gets a little bit of a head, and Anthony Davis has to make a decision. He doesn't make the right decision, and that's an open practice shot for Grady. But please understand, that's partially because of Yak's screen, but that's also because Grady is relentlessly moving. And it's not just movement without intention. He is intelligently moving into space. He is a extremely intelligent player. And you haven't even seen the full version of Grady because I'll tell you right now, I watched it in high school with him. All his tape shows me he's going to be a great passer out of the pick and roll. Once he starts handling pick and roll, you are going to see a perennial all-star unlocked in Toronto. You should be very high on him. Okay, watch this. Boom. Okay. How do you stop this? He's running you off two screens. The defender is not capable of navigating that. He's chasing him around all day. He's obviously there's a concept of defense and offense being very very linked. And I believe that defense and offense in this case are very linked because the defender that is guarding him is going to be dog tired in the fourth quarter. And if that defender is Derek White or Drew Holiday, Lord help you, you're going to be short on your jumpers because you've been chasing this guy around all night. He doesn't stand still for a second. I said it yesterday in yesterday's live. Grady might be the best conditioned athlete on this team. And people don't look at him like an athlete because all they see is a white guy. And I'm going to tell you, like, honestly, there's a much clearer parallel to him and Devin Booker, who is not a white guy, then frankly, he's just not. I don't mean to. I don't mean to sound weird. He's not a white player, bro. He's like he doesn't play like a white guy. Do you know what I mean? Like we all knew that white guy who didn't play like white. The stationary white shooters in the corner. I'm not necessarily saying white players play different, but like there's a type. Y'all know what the type is, right? Adam Morrison, Steve, like you know what I mean? Like there's that type, the Jason Capono is like the white guy who shoots in the corner. Like we all know that guy, right? Grady's game is city. Like he's doing up and unders at the rim. He's doing like throwaways. He's doing in and out crosses in the full court. Like he has some sauce to his game. This is a guy who'd be like welcome at Rucker Park and he'd be respected at Rucker Park. You know what I mean? So he's doing stuff, and frankly, that's why I compared him to Drazen Petrovic because honestly, this is the first player where I'm like, okay, that's very Drazen Petrovic. Like there have been other players in NBA history where I'm like, that's very Drazen. Like sometimes Zach Levine is very Drazen. Like sometimes Devin Booker is very Drazen Petrovic. Like so, yeah. So like that's who he reminds me of. But again, Anthony Davis, too late. Just again, he stretches you out because he's so unpredictable. Look at this relentless movement, right? So here, 15 is late, and he's just blowing past him, man. And like last year, this is a miss because he didn't have the strength to finish. But this time, he bumps him with his left shoulder, and he just rises over him. And you know what? There's your advantage to being 6'8". You know who wasn't 6'8"? Devin Booker. You know who else wasn't 6'8"? Drazen Petrovic. Those guys were 6'5", 6'4". Well, now you got a 6'8" version of that. Bro, if this works out in Toronto, I'm telling you, like 8 all-star appearances, 26 points per game. Like you have a real star here. Okay. Yak, screen, Gabe Vincent, dead. Like shot ready. He's loaded. He's ready to go. The shot prep is so great. Kudos to Ivo Simovic. Ironically, he's being coached by people who literally grew up watching Drazen Petrovic. Ivo Simovic grew up watching Drazen Petrovic. Darko Rajakovic grew up watching Drazen Petrovic. We all had the collective catharsis heartache when Drazen Petrovic died, in a car accident. It was one of the biggest losses for Yugoslavian basketball. In fact, the dismemberment of Yugoslavia in itself was one of the biggest losses for the world because that team was absolutely on par with Team USA. And Drazen Petrovic was the engine of that team. He was the best player on that team. This dude is giving me shades of my childhood, bro. And please understand, like that's powerful shit. You know what I mean? Like we do the panel every week, and Chill is always like, "Oh, this guy reminds me of Kareem. This guy reminds me of whatever." Well, this guy reminds me of Drazen Petrovic. Okay, I'm gonna keep saying it until it gets old. Go Google Drazen Petrovic highlights and tell me I'm wrong. Okay, here's Gradey playing defense, and there's Gabe Vincent being a complete jack off. Honestly, Gabe Vincent is the worst signing of last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this is like, bro, he scans the court. He knows nobody's close to him. So now he's mapped the entire court. That's the vision of Gradey. That's why his intelligence and his basketball IQ are so impressive and so important. A couple super chats here. Julia Hayden, thank you so much for that. And Deshane Wave saying Grady reminds me of Reggie Miller / Gordon Hayward. Reggie Miller is a really good comparison. I still think Drazen Petrovic is a much better comparison. Okay, watch this, bro. Oh my god, this is a 100% Drazen Petrovic shot. Boom, nobody close, not a second's hesitation. He shot 26 shots last night, bro. 26 shots, and here comes. Look, D'Angelo Russell's guarding Davion Mitchell. That's what you get for this. And a little hit in and out. And here's the beautiful part. He is willing to go at 3 defenders, and he's not even looking to pass. Dude, the fact that he is making himself this, because you know what? First of all, last year, this is a miss. 100% this is a miss. Like he's getting bumped off his spot. He's not finishing. His touch around the basket maybe wasn't as great. Or he's trying to pass to Siakam and getting a turnover as Anthony Davis picks it away. But right now, he's willing to attack 3 defenders. Do you realize D'Lo has completely abandoned Davion Mitchell? He does not care. Okay. Number 12, Anthony Davis, they're all just like closing in on Grady. Bro, he looks like they're guarding him like a superstar. And the best part about it is that his gravity is opening up all sorts of space for RJ to punch those gaps and attack those closeouts. Because once he does this, right, defenders got to guard him. So he's constantly moving. And as he moves, he's creating gaps in the defense everywhere. As he runs off a screen and gets open, it's panic, panic, panic. It changes the entire fabric of how you play as a basketball team. Y'all talking about tanking. You'll be very, very lucky if a top 5 player in next year's draft becomes better than Gradey Dick. I'm saying it right now. Maybe Cooper Flag will, but if Ace Bailey becomes a better player than this, that's a success. That's a success for Ace Bailey. Again, limited sample size, hugely limited sample size. I was like very disturbed last night when people were saying like I would take Grady in a redraft over Derek Lively. If he can keep this up, he might go top 3 in a redraft because what he's doing is actually more impressive, in my opinion, than what Brandon Miller is doing. It is because of it's how it scales. You understand? It's impossible to stop. Look at that. Look at the handle. First of all, look at the handle. Look at how many defenders he has on him. There are 4 defenders zoning in on him right now. 4. So what does that mean for a Kelly Olynyk? If you replace Jakob Poeltl on the screen right now and you just put Kelly Olynyk, do you not realize how open Kelly Olynyk would be? And if Kelly Olynyk's not open, do you realize how open the paint would be? Like the force that a player plays with, the speed at which they react and make decisions, right? The versatility with which they can punish the defense for missing. Like when Grady cuts baseline and you miss him, he can finish at the rim. He can dunk. He can finish around defenders. He can get to the line. If you find him in the corner and you swing him the ball, that's three defenders that are currently trying to scram, like to who's going to close out to this guy. And the minute they make a mistake, he's on the other way. Like he's going right to the basket. And if you drop against him, he's not Davion Mitchell. He's not Ochai Baji. He doesn't have like the two zones. With Ochai, there's no mid-range stuff right now. Like maybe it'll come. But with Ochai, it's like he's going right to the basket for a dunk, or he's hitting a corner three catch and shoot. So it's not a self-generation catch and it's not self-generation three, like dribble, 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 come down and just boom, pull it. It's not take two dribbles, step into the mid-range and then launch it. It's not take a sidestep and then fade away like we're going to see Gradey do. It's none of that stuff. So it's very predictable. And the more predictable you are as an offensive player, the less gravity you have. What I'm saying is Gradey Dick has so much gravity as an offensive player right now. Like he's doing Steph Curry stuff, man. I'm not saying it's quite on the level of Steph Curry, but at the same age, this is very Steph Curry stuff. Now look at the shot prep. Look at his legs. Look at the charge, right? Like if you're a shooter, this is shot preparation 101. And D'Angelo Russell, how are you so dumb? Like you miss him again. And again, even if D'Angelo Russell was 2 feet closer, I guarantee you he's not touching the shot because look at where Grady's hands are. Boom. It's gone. Like you cannot stop this. Now look at Gradey. Once again, D'Angelo Russell is a terrible defender. LaMelo Ball is a terrible defender. Teams are guarding Gradey with their worst defender, and he is killing them. He's destroying them. Okay, because these guys are super lazy off ball. They can wave their hands on the ball when the guy gets the ball. They'll be like, "Oh, super active." They're chopping their feet, but they're lazy defenders. They don't move. They just hope the guy won't get the ball. But with Gradey, he gets the ball and he scores the ball. Like D'Angelo Russell cost the Lakers so many points. And look at this. He just blows past them. Like D'Angelo Russell is like trying to play him for the shot here. And he's just he takes a little, left, right. And here's the cool thing. So Rui Hachimura gets into the paint, right? Now, if you're a scorer, if you're a one-dimensional scorer like Ochai, you're going to do a floater and you're going to pray for a foul. Or you're going to pass to Jakob, but not Gradey. Because Gradey can do that Devin Booker, Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan thing, where he can go left, shift your balance, and when you cheat, he can go right and he can get clearance. Watch this. This was the shot. Like that little bump and now the fadeaway, bro, that's some like Dirk Nowitzki shit, okay? Now look at this. Again, punish the defense. Darko Rajakovic preaches one thing. Don't make up your mind before the play. Don't make up your mind, oh, this is going to be my scoring shot. No, read the defense. That's what Darko is trying to do. He's trying to get Davion, Ochai, all these guys, Scottie, RJ, Gradey, especially Jacoby. He's trying to get them to read the defense. He's like, I'll talk a little bit more about Darko towards the end of this live and how he develops because we talked about it yesterday in Twitter Spaces, and I think that it's an important conversation to have because a lot of people think Darko Rajakovic is an idiot. But believe me, Darko Rajakovic and Ivo Simovic are a huge part of why Gradey is what he is right now because nobody saw this shit coming at Kansas. Watch this. Okay, now Austin Reeves is giving him way too much space, right? But he's playing him for the drive. There's a reason he's giving him this much space because he doesn't trust his lateral quickness. The offensive player always has the advantage with a head of steam, always, because the offensive player is dictating where he's going. The defensive player has to react. So provided the offensive player doesn't take extra dribbles and kills his dribble or, isn't like a one-dimensional scorer, the defensive player is always at a disadvantage. That's why you can't stop great scorers one-on-one. You can never stop. No one can stop Carmelo Anthony one-on-one. You always have to double team. The Raptors haven't had a guy like this in a really long time. Really long time. A movement shooter who can play make who can shoot, who can spot up, who can score from all three levels, bro. And when I say all three levels, I mean it because he's trying to go all the way to the basket. He's doing the one thing that they don't think he can do. Austin Reeves not a good defender, and you see it right there. Here's Ochai Abaji. He's going to take the three, airballs it, bad miss. Jakob Pertl. Now, watch what Gradey does. Consistently spacing the floor, very selfless. Great basketball IQ. Whoever taught Gradey how to play basketball did like a number. Like they deserve an award because I rarely see 20-year-olds with this level of just know-how. He is playing this game like a 15-year vet. Like whatever he's doing, like absorbing from Garrett Temple, absorbing from Otto Porter last year. He's a sponge. He is an absolute sponge. And he referenced this last year. He said, I'm a sponge. I just want to be a sponge. Yo, Otto Porter was a great shooter. He's learned a lot about shot preparation from Otto, right? Garrett Temple has like a little bit of this stuff in his game too. Obviously, not anywhere near to this level. He's learned from him. He was humble. He came to Toronto. He didn't come to Toronto as like, I'm Gatorade National Player of the Year. I'm a superstar. I'm a lottery pick. How dare you send me down to the G League? He took everything in stride last year. I can't tell you how impressed I am with this guy. But look at this. Okay, so here's RJ Barrett. He's gonna drive. Okay. Now you got two defenders on you. That means somebody's open, right? D'Angelo Russell is guarding nobody right now. And D'Angelo Russell is lost because Austin Reeves can't guard. Well, I mean, I don't know why Austin Reeves was even on Davion Mitchell. Clearly, he messed up there. And boom, there goes Gradey. So let's talk about Darko Rajakovic and how he succeeds. So, as some of you know, Darko Rajakovic comes from where my family comes from, Čačak, Serbia. And when he was hired, he was the only coach on Instagram that I followed. He has since deactivated his Instagram, but he was the only coach that I was following. And I've been following him for a while. And you hear a lot of stories about people when you follow them. And obviously, everybody in Serbia is very, very proud of him. He is, the second Serbian head coach in NBA history. And he's already lasted longer than the first one. It's not usual for EuroLeague style coaches to succeed in the NBA. First of all, it's really difficult to get buy-in from NBA players to play that way because it's a very selfless brand of basketball that it runs almost counterintuitive to AAU basketball. But second, there's always a language barrier, cultural barrier, xenophobia, all sorts of things. And thankfully, the players don't feel that way about him. His coaching staff doesn't feel that way about him. Masai Ujiri doesn't feel that way about him. But a lot of fans, I think, still have that element of like, this guy's stupid. He doesn't know what he's doing. Darko Rajakovic is here to develop basketball players. You may not trust his lineups. I understand that. You may not trust his rotations. You may not trust his adjustments. You might be stupid enough to think that this guy does not know X's and O's. I promise you he knows X's and O's. Now, he's not going to prove it to you right now because his goal is his goal. And he is very singular in his goal. That's what I appreciate about him. He's like very focused. Like he's very, like, I don't say narrow-minded. He has a big picture. But once he locks in on the big picture, he's very like, those, y'all remember War of the Worlds? Give me a W if you remember the film War of the Worlds. Those things are like blasting like one thing at a time. They're like, Darko's like that. He maps the entire thing. He's like, this is my team. I got to do this with Gradey. I got to do this with Jacoby. And then when he's dealing with Jacoby, just Jacoby. That's the homing, right? Last year, he made OG Anunoby a better finisher at the rim. OG Anunoby was doing things I'd never seen in his life, whether I'm talking AAU, whether I'm talking college at Indiana, whether I'm talking now, with the Toronto Raptors. I didn't see this shit from OG. But within a few months, you saw OG finishing better at the rim. You saw, maybe the one player that I didn't see real great growth from was Gary Trent, and that's probably why he's not here. And Chris Boucher, probably why he's on his way out very soon. But most players under Darko have blossomed immensely to the point where I even think Pascal Siakam got better. How does he do it? Well, as I said, when he was hired, I was like, this is my opportunity. How many times in my life is my team that I cover going to hire a guy who was born in my hometown? I probably know 100 people who have stories about this guy. So I started digging and I started digging. I got my sister to help me out. And kudos. Thank you, Yelena. So she helped me out. My Serbian is kind of like ass. I've been living in North America for way too long, but it was okay. Like it was good enough to get through some of these conversations. And yo, I gotta tell you, everything I heard was the same fucking thing. It's like 85 people met the same person 85 times. It was he's consistent. He cares. He cares about his players. He's patient. He's deliberate. He's so smart. He's driven. He's ambitious. So many stories. So many stories. Three stories that mirrored each other very carefully. One was from a friend of mine who was drafted but never played in the NBA. He's a really big center, and he had been coached with he'd been coached by Darko one summer, and he said that for an entire month he would just say two words to me, "Kakosi," which means "How are you?" And that's all he ever said. And then he would say, "Good, carry on," you know. And that's all he said to him for an entire month. And he just thought he was the weirdest guy ever. And it was only after a month that he asked him if he wanted to go for coffee. And that's when he actually started to open up with him about how he can change his game, what he's noticing in his game. He built the rapport first. He watched the guy first. He built all the data points. He was so meticulous with it so that when he showed him what he was doing, he had examples. He had data sets. He had examples of plays. He had examples of images where he would be like, in this case, in this case. And the player, in this case, my friend was shocked. He was like, I think this guy just wrote a book on me. And he never said a word to me. He only asked me how I was every day. But he never really gave me this, like, if you know what I mean. There was a similar story with Mikal Bridges, where when he was coaching with the Phoenix Suns, he watched Mikal shoot every single day, but he didn't really correct it. Mikal Bridges infamously has a really weird jump shot, but with the Phoenix Suns, it got a hell of a lot better. Darko Rajakovic did not approach him right away. He built up that rapport. He would ask him how he's doing every day. He would build him up. He would build up his confidence. He would allow him to make those mistakes. And only after observing him for months did he suggest one small tweak in his jumper. And according to Mikal, it changed his jumper. Desmond Bane, if you sat him down, and I hope the Toronto media asks Desmond Bane questions about Darko when he comes to Memphis, and you will see that guy light up like a Christmas tree. We said it, I said it when Gradey was drafted, right after Gradey was drafted. My initial knee-jerk reaction notwithstanding. Nobody in the world is better suited to develop a Gradey Dick than a Darko Rajakovic. Not only did he grow up literally watching players like Peja Stojakovic and Drazen Petrovic succeed, not only has he pretty much had NBA experience with Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Desmond Bane, he is the type of person who can connect to someone like this. Darko Rajakovic started building his relationship with Gradey Dick before Gradey Dick was even a Raptor. He started building with him in the pre-draft. When Gradey visited Toronto, Darko sat with him for nearly an hour and talked with him about his game, things that he could improve, things that teams are looking for. And this is before it was ever obvious that Gradey would ever be a Raptor. That's the cool thing about him. So when Gradey became a Raptor, of course, that first call was with Masai and then Scottie. But eventually, I think it was, no, the first call was with Masai, then it was with Darko Rajakovic, then it was it Masai, Bobby, Darko, then Scottie? The clip went viral. The point is, imagine being Gradey Dick, you're homesick, you're from where you're from, and now you're moving to Canada. It's very different, it's a big culture shock. To come here, leaving Kansas, coming here, leaving your family as a 19-year-old kid, struggling the way he did, a lesser coach could have broken him. I really do believe that because the way he struggled physically, mentally with the game, He looked shell shocked by the NBA. He looked shell shocked by the culture shock. He looked like he just looked stunned. But to see him today thriving, it is a testament to this coaching staff. It is a testament to him for working as hard as he did. This is a very impressive young player. How good could it be? 8-time All Star. That's how good it could be. How bad could it be? 0-time All Star, perennial 18 point per game scorer. That's the floor and ceiling right now. You know what I mean? So, whereas we went from, so what was the ceiling last year? Really good sixth man, if he never figures out how to develop, to third option. That was the ceiling last year. Third option, worst case, he's a sixth man. I was very high on him all last year. I told y'all, wait, 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 wait. He's going to be fine. Right. But still, in my mind, there's still that like 5% chance that he could blossom into more, that he could become an all star, that he become a multi time all star. He's showing it right now. He's showing it. And once Scottie and IQ come back, you just watch. You just watch how hard it is to guard a player like this when you can't load up, when you can't double. You watch how difficult it is when you continuously have to put your weakest defender on him, because if you put your weakest defender on Scottie or RJ, they're going to kill you. You just watch how different it is to receive passes from Emmanuel Quickley and Scottie Barnes than it is to receive passes from Chris Boucher and Davion Mitchell. For a shooter, y'all know if you're a shooter, the seams, man, the pass, how it fits into your pocket, how easy. You don't got to do nothing. If you're a good shooter, I played with. I thought I was a very good shooter, just not NBA shooter, but I was a very good shooter. I remember the difference playing with people who didn't know how to pass the ball and people who did pass the ball. I remember my ex-girlfriend's dad, we played pickup one game, and he's great. Like, he was a ex semi-pro like level player over in Yugoslavia. That guy was such a good passer. Every time he passed me the ball, it's like I could not miss. I don't think I missed the game. I think I went like 13 for 14 that game. I don't think I ever missed that game. Just couldn't miss. He's putting it right there. But some of these dudes, they're fucking throwing the ball over your head. You got to regather, then you got to find the seams. You're like, it's hard. It's hard to play with bad passers. Scottie's going to make life easy. Kelly is going to make life hella easy. Kelly plus Gradey, second units. Holy shit. Just watch. This is going to be a great year for the Toronto Raptors, man. A lot of respect and a lot of love to this community. Thank y'all. Even when we don't agree, even when we do agree, it's all love. And hopefully we're all growing. And Tony Horvat, who interviewed Darko Rajakovic last summer for us, and we translated the interview. If you know, this is Tony Salute, and Tony saying Darko was known to show tapes of Drazen Petrovic, and ironically, Bodiroga was like one of my Scotty comps, which is crazy to say, but yeah. And to those who don't know, Teodosic was like one of the best passers, if not the best passer in basketball history. Had a cup of tea in the NBA, but really, like, his career has been made in Europe, and he is so great. Yeah, to Durant and Westbrook and OKC, I'm sure Grady got the same homework over the summer. I'm sure he did, because if he is patterning himself as Dražen Petrovic, holy shit, bro! Like, I tell you, as a fan who watched a couple, it was like one or two Drazen games live. I I don't think I'd ever seen a player induce such a panic attack for the defense. If he would get open, if he was coming down and he had the ball, you would see like American players going, Petro, Petro, and they would have like this collective panic attack. That's because he would pull it from anywhere. That's the scary thing. He would pull it from like 29 feet. 30 feet. Friday, Saturday saying, yeah, bro, this happened this summer. This is not close. If the Milwaukee Bucks had Gradey Dick instead of Gary Trent Jr., they would be a winning team right now. The gap between these two players is enormous. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. I'll see you tonight after the game. Vince Carter getting his jersey retired. A lot of complex emotions for some people, only pure joy and catharsis for me. But I'll see y'all after the game. Hopefully, we'll have a few less trolls than we had yesterday, but trolls are welcome. Trolls are fine. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. And please hit like on your way out. That would be awesome.